Hi everyone, and welcome back to Farrand Film. This is episode 8, the penultimate episode of The Last of Us, and the penultimate reactions podcast. Because next week we'll do
It
the.
feels like it's coming to an end.
It does, doesn't it? We'll do this. We'll do the finale next week, and then we will do a sort of, I don't know, a full season recap type thing.
Yeah,
Now,
a breakdown, if you will.
things are much better than they were last week because I've got a boom mic. I've got a nice little mount for my phone, so my camera's much brighter and better. I don't look like I'm in the dark, although Ollie is in the dark.
I'm in the dark. I've been sat. I've literally just watched it. I'm still kind of shell shocked. I don't really want to move and turn on light. Should I just up light my face?
It's fine. Oh.
And then.
So, I mean, I had a real sort of issue last night because I was wondering when I was going to watch this episode again before we speak about it now. And basically, I've started walking into work again because I went to the personal trainer the other day and I said, I know I'm doing all this, and the gun show's happening, right?
All the vet, these pythons are sick.
They are, but I want to lose belly fat. Belly fat is my issue at the minute. This is the reason why I'm not fitting into t-shirts. This is the reason why I can't buy nice things. And he said, cardio. Cardio is what you want to do. So he said, get back on walking to work, walk to work, walk back from work. So I've done that today. So I'm a bit shattered. I'm a bit tired. But I have to be in for 7:30 on a Monday because I'm doing morning interventions. So I set off quite early. And then none of my kids turned up for morning intervention.
That's always the way, isn't it?
I watched this on my phone in my classroom this morning. Every now and again, just turning it down a tad. When I thought, I don't want those sounds eking out into the corridor.
Yeah.
So this is when we are in need. Now, this is a very, very specific part of the plot from the game that I think people were waiting to come up and were sort of umming and ahhing as to whether or not things were going to happen. I've just closed off WhatsApp on my laptop, but I do want to mention what my brother-in-law sent me. So and we'll go through your texts because
Indeed, it's back. I didn't do it last week. I can't really.
We didn't do it last week.
Last time.
So again, just a bit of context to this, people. I've just interviewed the producer and the star of a film that is on Manif at the weekend. The video will be up soon and all that kind of stuff. And in between both of them, I'm getting texts off him being like, "Oh, this." So
right. So why don't you just? It's on WhatsApp though. You could mute it until further notice. So
no. Like, to be fair, it was my phone. It was I took my phone off here because I'd recorded that. I went downstairs, and then all of a sudden, and I was like, "Oh, Ollie started." And I came back up, and now I've seen all of them now through the bloody thing. Right. So my brother-in-law said, this was a couple of weeks ago now because he sort of foresaw it and then got quite worried.
Okay.
Where are we? Right. So he said, Adam, I have a question now. This was the 20th of February.
Okay.
He said, I don't want to know the answer, or I don't know if I want to know the answer. And I said, go on then. And he said, and then in caps, that part from the game in the series. So I said, as in David. And he said, that involves Ellie, that really graphic, horrific thing. And I said, well, she bumps into the creeper he wants her as a pet. And he said, yeah. And I said, yeah. And he went, oh, say no more. But is it similar without telling me in detail? And I said, there's definitely some similarities. And Ellie is visibly changed by meeting them. And he put,
it's arguably worse in this.
Yeah. He put, that's okay. I thought they'd missed it out.
It's arguably way more harrowing and just unpleasant.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable and visceral and I loved every second of it because I live for stuff like that. Because that's what I'm going to be making people feel when I am in Sweeney. Like everything about my character is.
You're taking in all the sort of
Or
uncomfortable.
imagine if David was like a pantomime villain. That's basically what I'm kind of exuding. But oh my god,
Yeah.
just viscerally uncomfortable from the get go. I'd be curious to know. I really am interested to see what George's take on it is
Hmm.
because
Like
she's
I've already
obviously
said to you, I'm interested to see what Amy thinks about it tonight when we watch it.
because she's obviously got no context for the story.
Yeah.
She doesn't know anything about David from the get go. I think the game probably does a better intro, just insofar as he is a guy and like Ellie is obviously suspicious and he seems very nice.
Hmm.
And some people will be like, bad vibe, but some people will be like, oh, he's all right. Because he then does go on to actually help you fight critters, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one in that in the game, because I thought this morning, you don't. So the episode starts off by us seeing David, and his sort of, you called him a Bible badger.
It was meant to
Um,
be Basher,
well, I
but
thought it was
Bible
supposed to be
Badger actually
Basher.
works.
Although actually, if you want to be a Bible badger, I think that might be um, and you sort of you see them and the way that he is and all that kind of stuff, and kids in tears. Can we bury me dad? And he goes, nah, it's too cold to dig, so we'll bury him in the spring.
That was one of the follow-up comments as well. And then immediately sits next to a young girl and puts his hand on her shoulder. Okay, cool.
so we we don't get that in the game. What happens in the game is the White Rabbit, the you know,
The
um,
crying female streamer that I hope you saw.
I did. The
Gonna
deer.
recommend it if you haven't as well, people in podcast land. It's so funny. Like I don't want to laugh at a woman being visibly upset, but like she's clearly moved by the previous scene where like Ellie's in bits trying to move Joel, and then this little rabbit comes along, beautifully rendered because Neil Druckmann is a bit of a slave driver when it comes to his animators, clearly.
Okay.
And she's like, that is the cutest thing I've ever seen. And then perfectly timed, Ellie's arrow straight through its neck. And then she just cries and just holds her face in shock. And it's hilarious. And I love it.
So we get the deer. You sort of you shoot the deer and then you have to run after it and shoot it
Yeah, the
again and then run
CGI
after
deer.
it and
Don't
shoot
forget
it
how
again.
CGI it is. Yeah.
Well, no, this is the game. So
That's
then,
true. Yeah.
yeah, and then eventually David appears and sort of says, "That's a big deer. You don't want all that to yourself." Blah, 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 blah. And then you end up fending off a horde of infected in a really small sort of hut, similar to the one that they end up sitting in.
Mm.
And then you sort of run further ahead from there, working with David, working with, I don't know if he is called James in the game, he might be.
Mm.
And then naturally you end up then sort of, I say naturally, you end up going back to work the sort of area essentially. Now, this is slightly different in that we see a bit of David beforehand, so we begin to understand maybe the kind of character that he is, this sort of zealot that he's become. But then it's sort of it's so his creepiness just exudes in very, very slowly, I think. And I
Yeah.
think that's what works best in this episode is that the performance from Scott Shepherd, like he sort of seeps little bits of creepiness in every now and again. There are moments where you sort of go, oh, he's just a guy who's trying to lead these people, and maybe he's just a bit of a power hungry wacko, but actually there's something much more sinister
Well,
under
it's
his
it's
skin.
the mask slipping. Like
Yeah,
Georgia
yeah.
listens to enough true crime, and it's this idea of like you'll see cameras on like there's loads of cases of like Ted Bundy where the camera's on him and he's smiling and he's got this vivacity behind his eyes, and then it just there's a moment where he doesn't realize the camera's on him and his face just drops, and like a David is clearly just much better at masking than Ted
Yeah,
Bundy,
yeah.
but oh my god. What did I
So,
say? Like
do you want
really
to
good replication of the dialogue, like
do you want to do
throughout
your do
those
you want to
bits.
do your texts, and then
Yeah, because we
we'll.
got to like no Arrow Bunny, which we missed Troy. I'm very
Well,
excited. We screened Troy.
right, yeah. So, Troy Baker. This is Troy's episode because
OG Joel, for those of you who don't
we
know.
knew that Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker were both cast in what they referred to as undisclosed roles beforehand. So this is Troy's episode. We'll just say this now, and it's not really a spoiler. She's not popped up yet. She's in next week's,
Yes,
right? Because there's
we're
only
gonna get
one
some
left.
weird. I imagine we get some weird flashback. Isn't she meant to be Ellie's mom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be a flashback to
In a
something.
very, very well done scene.
Mm.
Yeah. Things that some people are already spoiling, which I'm not happy about.
Yeah. People are idiots when
It
they're
kind of
online.
it's a reveal of something. There's a big thing that sort of comes out of it.
Is it in game or new?
It's new. It's new. It's
I've
something.
well,
It's something that the game doesn't explain. And
is it to do with just a yes or no? Is it to do with why Ellie in particular has this immunity in the first place?
Yeah.
Right. Because is it? This might be then a spoiler, kind of, for the cinephiles out there. Is it vaguely similar to Blade's backstory?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's clever. But it does make you think there would be more immune people out there. Maybe that's something deliberately they're doing, though, to try and open that up. Because that would be interesting if, like, that would be a dynamic that Ellie then gets to explore that bit more of, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. And
I don't think they've written themselves into a corner with it. And again, we can talk about this more next week because it's not a sort of cut and shut of an idea that just because she was pregnant,
Bladed.
Bladed. Then we'll get to it next week. Do your text then. Do your text.
So where do we get up to? We got
we get Troy.
CGI day.
Yeah,
love the CGI day, obviously, because it was just CGI. Like lots of things are just doing CGI day, even though I imagine deer are actually quite easy to wrangle. But okay. And then the next message was "Ooh, that look," which I think is the first time that David clocks Ellie, and just something about his look changing.
Yeah, there is something about it, isn't there?
So subtle, so subtle.
Yeah.
Great.
And just how sort of full-faced she looks. She looks very babyish and sort of soft skinned.
She looks younger than Game Ellie, especially in this episode. I don't know if that's deliberate.
Yeah, and it makes it creepier.
Yeah, because like Game Ellie, you could sound like you could because we obviously teach teenagers, and there are some 16-year-olds we teach where it's like you still look like you did in year 7. This is weird.
Yeah.
And then you get some who are like, oh, I can see the person you're going to become.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ellie is very much in that latter. It's like she's not fully developed yet. She is still a young girl, but you can see the woman she is going to become.
Yeah.
This Ellie, and it's weird because Bella Ramsey is obviously 19, but very much she looks much more like the year 11 trapped in the year 7's body. And then I've said great replication of the dialogue. I think that was throughout. I think it was I can't remember what that bit was for. I think it was when they were talking about, going back and getting the medicine. And then decent man, F off David, because he calls himself a decent man. And he's like, no, get in the bin. Just, nah.
No.
And then they're sat in the hut, like you said. And then David mentions that he was a teacher. And the subtext of that is not okay.
No. I liked Ellie's, so you're a teacher that became a preacher. You're just going for stuff that rhymes.
And that was the thing, is I did kind of roll my eyes at that a little bit until later. But it was like, oh, and he's a man of God, is he? So we're making this commentary. Like, make the commentary if you want, but it was a bit like, oh, okay, of course we do. And I think that could almost spoil it a bit, because then people are going to be on edge because he's a weird, like, cult leader. rather than just the first time you see him, he's just some bloke who's trying to survive in the game. And I don't know.
I enjoyed the slow burny stuff about them saying Alid or Alec, one of died, and we know that it was a guy and a girl, and we know that
well,
this
that's
person
straight from the
did
game,
this.
isn't it?
Yeah. But then it really sort of, without explicitly saying it, tells you that those were the people that they must have bumped into at the university, or at least that's how I read it.
Yeah, and did Game Ellie get let go in the same way?
Yeah.
Because I thought they
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there is a bit where they end up saying that they're going to let her go, and then I think you start trying to just sort of find more medicine for Joel, possibly, and then all of a sudden they begin to swarm, and it becomes. I mean, they definitely shoot the horse.
That's one of my later points. I think at that point I said, that one note music, because it's that kind of like low piano thing that's like the bad vibes music in Last of Us. It's very minimalistic, but it's really creepy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, the magic of antibiotics. And I do need to take that back later, because a lot of places are like, oh, he's got his antibiotics now. That's fine. It's like, no, it's not how antibiotics work. And then I just screamed at you. She didn't even flick the needle.
Oh dear.
Poor Joel's gonna die of an embolism because of the bloody air bubbles. And then it wasn't. You actually see. You kind of see more of the villagers, obviously.
Yeah.
Although one thing that was missing, which I did really like, is I think you're sneaking through the village as Joel.
Yeah.
And you can hear all the villagers just dissenting with David as like everything goes to pot, which is a touch I really liked. And then I think I'm actually gonna not say the next one. Oh wait, aren't they blank too? Because he like looks dead dodgy. It's like venison. It's venison. And that was the point where I was like, oh, I remembered that point. And then I said, he slaps
venison.
them. Yeah. Oh, he slaps them as well as noncing.
Yeah.
Because that's when he just goes up to the little girl. It's like, you should have killed her. And he just walks up to the girl and smacks her to the floor. Like, oh, okay. Mask slipping a little bit there.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's losing his cool.
So much ick. And then I noticed, actually, because I thought it was a really nice touch, that all the portions were tiny.
Yeah.
And then his was massive.
Yeah.
Which was different, because I thought it was a case of, the portions are all tiny. And then as you see his, it's piled up here. It's like, okay, that's a different dynamic. So
so I'm trying to they end up sort of capturing Ellie, don't they? And then they take her back.
I still got more based on that then.
Yeah. He carries her off, doesn't he? And
Troy shoots the horse.
Troy shoots the horse.
And I said, oh, great. I'm scared they're going to eat Shemma. Oh, great. They shot the effing horse. Now Georgia is going to cry when we watch it back. Because, God. We noticed the bird. Did you notice the birds of unease as well? Because, of course, they were ravens or crows.
Oh, yeah.
Just cawing. It's like, ominous. There is death coming. Metaphor.
Oh, my days. I'm just going to open my door a smidge and just stick my leg out.
Just cool down a bit.
To avoid it, cool down and to avoid it cramping up. That's what you get for recording in a cupboard, people.
True. Right. I sent you the Does He Know Riddler gift. I can't remember what specifically that was in context to. Was that just Troy Baker looking at it?
I think that might have been Troy Baker.
I think it was, does he know that David is, a
witch?
A witch or wizard of noncery?
Yeah, there's a bit of a look in there.
Yeah.
So, they put her in a cage. The ear on the floor.
Yeah, cannibal confirmed at that point.
Grim days.
Although they really, that's after they perfectly replicate Joel's interrogation scene, where he just questions one of them.
How did I not mention that? Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, you killed him. Why'd you do that? I'm not going to tell you anything. No, it's okay. I believed him. Boom.
Absolute
led pipe.
badass. Absolute
Like,
badass.
that's the first hint. Spoilers, I guess, but that's the first hint where you're like, oh, Joel's not like everything Joel has done up to now. You've been kind of okay with,
Yeah.
but this is the point where you're like, oh, he's not okay. He's
Probably,
not a good.
yeah. No.
He's not. He's not a good man,
Um,
really.
it was the popping kneecaps.
Oh yeah, he does that in the game, doesn't he? He threatens to
Yeah.
pop his
I'll
kneecap
pop your
off.
kneecap off. Like, what's
Oh,
that? What is that?
that is grim. Because even if he didn't pop it off, he's put a knife behind there. Let's be real. He's
Yeah.
severed a ligament or a tendon.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so basically, Joe, he finds where they're going, and then you sort of see him very gingerly making his way towards her. Um, Ellie notices an ear on the floor. David reveals that it actually, it's all human flesh. Then you get the proper creeper moment of him sort of saying, we could have been so good together. We could have been really powerful together.
But you're missing the part where he fully acknowledges that he's like the believing in God thing is nonsense, and he's doing it because it's what the people need to follow him, which was amazing. And he goes into like what? Who are this group that you keep mentioning again and again?
Oh, the Seraphites.
The Seraphites. So are they based off of his notion of kind of the cordyceps are love and they are just fighting for survival and stuff like that?
No, the Seraphites end up following a unseen sort of. I suppose she's some sort of pariah, you know. That her image is sort of painted over everywhere, and they're sort of just saying, like, oh, just follow her, she will guide us, she will do this, she will da.
So it's
So
like the
I don't think.
Fireflies, but more culty and weird.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and somehow they've all managed to find really long brown trench coats somewhere,
Oh,
because they all wear
that's
the same
handy.
thing. Yeah,
That's handy. That's handy.
yeah,
It makes them easier to animate, I'm sure.
yeah,
But he was so matter of fact. Like Game David, from what I remember, is a little bit whiny, and
yes,
he's kind of pleading with Ellie to understand him, which is
mhm,
I quite like that dichotomy of he's so pathetic on that side, and then on the other side he's just like, But I
yeah.
do like this guy just being so straight to the point. I did think for a second they were leaning away from Heatherfile. It did seem like he just
Yeah,
they really teased that where like because I think it's a lot more obvious earlier that Game David is a Heberphile.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas they leave this one a bit later and he just puts his hand there and then he puts his hand on top of Ellie's. And I was like, oh, maybe not. Ew, break
Yeah,
him, Ellie.
yeah.
Break him.
And
And
she
she
does.
does.
She
She
does.
breaks his finger.
Breaks his
And
finger.
then, oh, wow. Little, wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
see why you went to close
yeah,
your door.
yeah. Big words, big words that will not be repeated.
Yeah.
But then it's the meat cleaver towards you, Joe. Takes him
Uh,
out. Just
what
just just gruesome.
I didn't like his tiny little pieces. That's one thing that Nolan North did way better.
Yeah,
That little, like, that kind of, he almost lets his mask slip and be horrible about it. Whereas this David's a bit like, and then buggers off,
yeah.
which is a bit of
It's
a
a bit.
shame.
It's a bit
That would have
sort
been a
of.
really good opportunity for him to have just like, cool.
Yeah,
What was it you said again? Tiny little piece, like just that little
yeah,
pause, linger staring at her, and then walk out the door.
yeah.
That would have been like, and then you get freeze wrapped people because Joel walks in because you didn't.
Grim.
Joel saw the aftermath, didn't he? He saw like all the bags and all the clothes, and you can read notes of all the inventory
Yes.
that they've got in.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't think you could see. Maybe it was just a graphical thing, but I swear you didn't actually see bodies hanging there.
I don't think you did. You saw there was a lot of allusion to it essentially. But you definitely don't see what you see there.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we're going to get to this in a little bit with like what people said and how people have reacted to it. But people seem to think that this episode was rushed. I don't think it was rushed.
I don't think it was
Um,
rushed.
I think I'm very, very glad, and all credit to the set designers for this, that the way that they made that restaurant look so that it actually felt like I was playing the game again. seeing
Yeah.
Ellie crouching down and
Are they
beating
saying it just
around.
wasn't as long? Like, obviously, just from practicality's sake, it's not going to be as long as the segment of the game. But a lot of that was the gameplay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can't replicate
No.
that in a film or TV setting. So there's no point trying. I think they nailed the like. Is it because Ellie didn't go anywhere else having escaped, and she ended up straight in the steakhouse, which she didn't in the game? Like, what did you want her to do? Wander around the town first?
Yeah, and go
Like,
rooting through drawers and stuff like.
yeah. Oh, pick up a single scissor blade and craft it in a jar. Like,
Yeah,
let's do that
nah.
for a bit, shall we?
Yeah,
But
but so basically Ellie throws some sort of, it's like a burning stick.
yeah, just a cinder, yeah.
Yeah, and it ends up basically setting fire to the steakhouse. And then this is really where you sort of see David getting proper full on creeper. And he literally sort of says, "Yeah, I quite like it when they fight."
Oh, that line was horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine that guy
Fighting,
just
you know,
going
you
for a
should know by
shower
now.
after he said
Fighting's my
that.
favorite part.
Yeah, go on. What was your favorite part?
No, that's what he was saying. Fighting was my
Oh,
favorite. You
oh,
know, you don't know fight, and the look in his eyes that they didn't have because there was just a scuffle over the top, so you didn't
yeah,
see that look in his eyes of just
yeah,
pure manic.
yeah.
He's in the zone, and like when he's saying, "You do need a father." Oh,
Nah, nah. Too
oh
far.
my
Too
god! Just
far. Too far.
everything he said in that bit was horrifying.
Yeah.
And the only thing I wish they got in there, which they didn't, was like broken plates. You know how you
Yeah.
can't sneak everywhere because there's
Yeah. Yeah.
broken
Yeah.
plates
Yeah.
in some bits.
Yeah.
Like if they got that in there somehow, I'd love that because that's one of my favorite touches from that. Because like it is notoriously hard to do like bosses like that
Yeah.
in game. Like he is just meant to be a standard enemy at the end of the
Maybe
day.
that was a bit prolonged and you had all that and yeah.
Yeah. Whereas and like as usually like in things like this, the way you would do it as a boss battle is you'd shoot him several times with a rifle, despite the fact that one rifle round should be more than enough to put any person down, kind of thing. Whereas the game design was actually clever enough to be like, right, you've only got your knife and you can stealth, but you can't stealth everywhere. So you've got to kind of map it out. And if he sees you, he'll run at you and he'll like one hit kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just dead clever. And they managed to get that kind of tension straight from, and like, I imagine if you like do the fight for long enough, he'll kind of go through the loop of everything he said
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
similar
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
and just that final like her wailing on him is just
Oh my
so
God.
much more. It's so much more because like in the game, I imagine there's more of an element of yeah, I got him, whereas
Yeah,
this
there
was
is. Yeah. Yeah.
whereas
And
this was just like okay, you got him, but I still feel
Joel
broken.
Joel stops her as she's wailing
Yeah,
on him.
yeah, I don't know which I prefer, and this
I
show
I
keeps
like
making me
this.
like,
I like. Oh, I mean, you said it in a text, but I'm prepared for Amy to just shed tears. Baby girl, I've
I'm
got you,
here,
baby
baby
girl.
girl. That was so.
Oh my God.
I do. I liked them walking off, but I do prefer. I think Ellie in the game just cried and let go for longer, which I think was nicer.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that kind of she realizes it's Joel and she just falls in him and lets loose.
Yeah.
And then he does that typical Last of Us cut to black next chapter.
Yeah.
I
There
think
is
that would have been. I think that would have been like. I get that they wanted to say, "Oh, we're leaving now," but I think we're smart enough to get that. I think that would have been a really nice place to leave it if it was just Ellie full on sobbing into Joel's nape and
yeah.
Joel just holding her tight, and it just
Yeah.
kind of cuts to black. I think that would have been probably a slightly better route because it's like it's established everything we need at this point. They are in this together, and Joel genuinely cares about her. And Ellie has been through hell and is just so relieved to see Joel so that she cares about him. Sets up everything you need for the next episode, like perfectly.
Because we kind of carry it on a little bit in the next episode, in that you're sort of seeing the aftermath of Ellie, I suppose mentally dealing with it,
Mm. Well, I remember in the game when you try and interact with her at the beginning of that next chapter, she's
Yeah,
way more subdued, isn't she?
that's they kind of they get that a little bit at the
Mm.
beginning of next week's episode. Yeah. Um, just to kind of mention some things that are on the Wikipedia. So again, they're all mentioning how visceral it was, and they were talking about the production of it. Um, Bella says that she felt that Ellie was trying to imitate Joel a lot in some of the scenes, which I get.
Yeah,
Well, like she sort of walks on and she says like, I'll put one between your eyes," and stuff
yeah.
like that. And
That was a nice touch. Like, I'm pretty sure it's in the game as well, but where David just kind of said, "Yeah, between my eyes, yeah, I got it. Don't
yeah,
worry."
yeah, I get
That
it.
was like again, it's a really good power move from David. It's horrible.
Yeah. For the scene in which Ellie kills David, Ramsey said that Ellie learns that she has this capacity for violence, which she finally expresses, and she thought that Ellie scares herself because it felt so good. She considers it a turning point for Ellie, and feels that she might have PTSD as a result of her experience. So again, we'll deal with that next
Yeah,
week, and then later on. Um, and then if we go to what people are thinking about it, because again, it's becoming that series where you can do right by the majority of people, but then you don't do right by a very select few who just feel like they have to go against the grain, you know.
yeah.
So like so far it's got a 8.1 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's really low.
I think that's low. I think this is easily the most violent episode
Mm-hmm.
and the most possibly emotionally traumatic episode.
Yeah,
You know,
certainly the most unnerving.
yeah. Um. So they've said like it was very similar to westerns and modern horror films. They appreciated the cinematography. Bella and Scott Shepherd's performances received particular praise. They said they referred to Shepherd's performance as charismatic. I don't think I'd use charismatic.
I think that's a fair no, but he really sells that image of like a Jim Jones. He really sells that
Yeah.
cult
Okay. Yeah. Fair
leader.
enough. Yeah.
Like you get that vibe from him massively, very menial, very pleasant in those bigger groups. And then when he gets in amongst his inner circle, like you said, it slowly seeps out, and you see like there'll be times where like he'll feel that bit of dissonance in his
Mm,
group, and he'll just throw them a look,
yeah.
and that'll be it. And they'll just be like, because I like as well how much smaller he is than all of the guys he went out hunting Joel with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
he has complete authority over them. They
Yeah.
are terrified of him. And it does have that vibe of, the priest that everyone kept stum about, abusing kids,
Hmm.
as not to lower the tone, but that is exactly the vibe, and they've
Yeah.
captured it perfectly. And yeah, he is charismatic, he is a leader, and he portrays that, and it's what makes that scene where he kind of opens up to Ellie and talks about, I'm sick of being surrounded by sheep, I want an equal.
Hmm.
For a split second, it makes you like you do feel like, yeah, I can imagine that'd be really boring as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Some of the
oh,
negativity seems to have stemmed around people feeling like this is rushed.
but based on
Um,
what?
so it said Bleeding Cool's Chang felt that it would have been more effective as a two-parter to allow more time to build David's personality. Total Film found the final 15 minutes suffered from a rushed pacing, and it effectively remade the scenes from the video game. Come on. And Den of
Why
Geek
would
said,
like complain about remaking scenes from the video
yeah,
game? It's
yeah,
been doing it the entire series.
yeah. And they've been doing it well, so stop.
They've been doing it really
Yeah.
well.
And it was well then. Den of Geek said that it lacked the dramatic impact of the game, considering the religious overtones unnecessary, David's characterization incongruous, and the cannibalism revealed too heavy-handed. Get a grip.
Did
You know,
it? Okay, I swear it did it exactly the same as the film, as the
I
game.
I think they did.
And
So
you've also like, and also, I initially thought the religious overtones were a bit heavy-handed, but then he says he is using that. That is a tool. He don't. It's almost. I read that as he don't even believe it himself.
yeah.
He doesn't even believe it himself, but he recognizes it as a tool to get them on board, which is way more terrifying. And like, because you don't see stuff doing that. I think it would have been easy for him to like try and use God to justify what he did and stuff like that. And he doesn't. And we haven't seen a character do that before. And it's just, that strikes me as someone who is religious and felt a little bit attacked. Like,
Oh, probably.
you know what I mean? Like, oh, he's having a go at my religion because he's saying that, you know, what, he's saying the truth. He's making a comment about the fact that there is a correlation between.
How dare they?
I know, right? How dare we say things that have actually happened?
So I was just having a look at the ratings. Not the it's the ratings. So out of like how many millions of people have watched it in America and all that kind of stuff. Just generally interested. Because obviously the model is slightly different now in that it goes to HBO Max as well. There are probably people watching it on streaming. There are probably people not watching it as it goes out when it goes out. They're probably, recording and catching up and all that kind of stuff. So 0.5 million viewers, so 500,000 viewers, watched episode 1. Then 0.6 for episode 2, 0.7 for episode 3. And then you go all the way up to 0.9 for episode 4. And then what I thought was a weird drop is when Endure and Survive, so the Henry and Sam episode comes up, it drops to 0.3. But then doing a little bit of research, that was the same day as the Super Bowl. So you're losing it there. Then back up to 0.8 for Kin, which was episode 6. And then Left Behind was the first one to crack 1 million. So I get the feeling that people now might be sort of going, these last few episodes, we're going to watch them as they happen.
I just find that weird. Like, is that as it's happening, as it's being broadcast?
I think so, yeah.
Right, because I was about to say, like, who's coming in on episode 7 being like,
Yeah.
oh, what's this?
Yeah. I get the feeling that is as it happens, as it's broadcast. And usually, just by over the years looking at this kind of stuff, you obviously, one goes high, and then they tend to drop a little bit, and then there's a peak later on, probably where people are picking it up on recordings or, on demand services or anything like that. But yeah, we are there pretty much. So next week, look for the light, the season finale. Are you ready to say goodbye to this series, Ollie?
I believe I am. I believe it will be emotional. I am sure that we're going to cure the cordyceps plague. And I can see no dilemmas hitting the audience. I can see no dilemmas hitting the characters. I foresee no problems with the future of the human race in this universe.
I mean, who knows?
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? It's a very good one. I mean, they're all very good. They're all very good, but next week's is good, and it's the shortest, so it is only 45 minutes long next week.
Oh, okay.
And I don't feel like that. But again, I feel like that's meaning that people are going to complain again that it's rushed, but I don't think it is. Some people are wondering. I think actually Bella has said herself that she thinks that the episode finale is going to divide people. But I think that's more of a possibly moral conversation that came out of the game.
In the same way that the game divided people, surely.
Yeah. And I mean, I for one agree with Joel. So we'll get to that next week.
Nah. Team Marlene. Team Marlene.
Oh dear. Right. Anything you want to add before we shoot on?
As it's completely irrelevant, but I don't care. I've just been sent a message by my head with a list of lessons that are due to be observed. And mine's one of them. So
hey!
One of my year 11s as well, with like a relatively new class. I don't know all that well because we've reset all the year 11s after half term. And it's a revision lesson on atmosphere.
It's the big O. He's got the big O.
Yeah, and I've not long had one, and I can't be doing it. And they're going to ask me stupid question. How do I know if they're making progress? I am leading them to water. That is all I can say.
The political views of Oliver Ball do not reflect the political views.
These aren't political. These are
Actually,
professional.
they probably do. But yeah, right. So this one's going up on YouTube and on podcast feed and all that kind of stuff. Manif coverage is starting this week. So my Love Without Walls interviews with Niall McNamee and Karen Newman will also be up on the channel. I'm going watching Scream 6 on Wednesday. I'm going doing the double bill of 5 and 6. I might do a review, I might not. I felt like I got accosted by a student the other day who said, "Sir, have you seen Ant-Man?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "Well, why have you not reviewed it?" So it was a bit naff. I don't have much to say. I do apologise.
I think we were looking to watch it, and then we realised, oh, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is still in cinemas. We should probably watch that because I've heard it's a really good film. How that film is as good as it is, I have no idea.
I
But
would
hey,
argue probably better than Ant-Man.
wow, really? I mean, don't get that, but at the same time, this was like a genuinely fantastic animated film.
Yeah.
It genuinely could be like DreamWorks' best film. And on that note, we do need to do probably a DreamWorks tier list at some point.
I'm going to have to catch up with so much then to do that.
That could actually be a lot of fun, DreamWorks
Okay.
tier list, because
Okay.
there is some dross in DreamWorks.
I mean, the one thing that we won't agree on, and that I will have a veto ready in my back pocket for, is Madagascar being the first. So
I love Madagascar, but it's not a first. Man.
it is for me.
It's not even the best in the film series.
Hey. If you have any poo, throw it now. What was I going to say? Yeah, and then I'm going watching Riley on Friday, so I'm going to review that on Friday, and then I'm watching Love Without Walls on Sunday, so I'll review that, and then November, Breaking, Road of Excess, and I'm doing the awards as well. So there's a lot of stuff.
Georgia noticed, like, through moving house and everything, we've really dropped off on like watching films. There was genuinely like a 4-month period or 5 months where we didn't go to the cinema.
Well, I said to Amy last week, I said, "Oh, we've got a film to watch, as in this Saturday," and she was like, "What?" And I went, "Luther on Netflix, The Fallen Sons on Netflix," and she was like, "Oh, already?" I was like, "Yes, we're watching a film on Saturday night."
Oh God! Well, we watched The Menu was our last one. That was.
It's good, isn't it?
That's a lot of fun.
I like The Menu.
That was a lot of fun. I loved everything about Tyler.
Yeah.
I just loved everything about Tyler. And like, I loved at the end being able to pretend to vaguely be Tyler with Georgia. Like, because I was like gushing over this film, is like, oh, like what it's saying about critics in general and what they're doing to artists is great. And Georgia was like, I think it was good. So I just turned to her and went, you just don't get it. she looked at me with, the kind of murder that only Anna Taylor-Joy could have for Nicholas.
Yeah.
Where has she come from as well?
Oh, Anna Taylor-Joy?
I feel like she's just exploded onto the scene. It's like, oh, you're a legitimately amazing actress with some weird...
I remember seeing her in Split for the first time.
Yeah, it's a young her in Split, wasn't it? And then she was in like Witch and New Mutants, and she's in Peaky Blinders as well.
Was she? I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure it's her who's married to Tommy's nephew, Polly's son.
Oh. And then, she's in, obviously, Queen's Gambit was a big one.
Yeah.
Last Night in Soho.
Still not seen that. I need to watch that.
I tell you what was good, watching not her, but Thomas and Mackenzie. We watched Jojo Rabbit on Friday with my film class. And at the end of it, they were all like have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
Yeah.
Spoilers for people if they haven't. The bit where he sees his mum's shoes, they're all like, oh no. And I'm sat there and I'm going, this is why you see your shoes so much. They are Chekhov shoes. And then at the end, they were all just like, "Oh, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that." I was like, it's a good film.
It's a very good film, Jojo Rabbit.
It's a good film.
I just love the depiction of Hitler being completely wrong on every count as well.
I mean,
That's
the amount
JoJo's
of
humor.
like, I'm totally discombobulating my frame here. The amount of propaganda stuff that they go through, where they go like, because we know all the Jews have got dragon heads and pointy
Yeah.
teeth and things. It's
I
like,
tell you what, though, someone's gonna context like completely edit that. So now Adam Farrand has just said, "Oh, we all know that Jews have got dragon heads," and
never in a million years would I say things like that.
like what?
Exactly.
Hey, but it's little details as well. Like every time you see Taika Waititi's Hitler eating, he's like eating meat. Hitler was like famously vegetarian, and he's like constantly got like a pipe or a cigar.
Yeah.
Hitler was massively anti-smoking because, like, not weirdly, Nazi scientists were the first group of scientists to be like, yeah, maybe this smoking could lead to lung cancer. It's like, really, now you're caring about what people breathe in and how good it is for their health. Interesting.
I love the
Weird
Gestapo
one.
scene because even the kids were like, yeah, like when they rock up and they all go, "Hi Hitler, hi Hitler, hi
Yeah.
Hitler."
Well, have you seen Taika and Stephen Merchant breaking that scene down?
I have not watched it yet, but it is in one of my lessons, so I am
It's
watching it. Yeah.
It's brilliant. Taika literally says, I wanted to see how many times I could get my characters to say Heil Hitler in one sequence. And I wanted to push it as far as I could. Yeah, they did really well.
Right. I need to go get some tea. So,
Indeed.
thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. You know where to go and help sponsor the podcast or support the podcast. Go to Waffle Teas. Use the code Farrand, 15% off your order. Blah, 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 blah. Follow me on Twitter at Adam Farrand. I'm going to be all over Manif over the weekend and over next week. So many films, so many things happening. And then I'm going to fall down. He's Ollie J Ball. He's trolling.
He's a bit of a troll, but if you fancy sending me a, good look in your observation lesson, because it's the deep dive in my subject.
The Dipper Dav.
And then the shallow waddle is the following day.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It'll all be fine.
I'm sure it will.
It will be. It'll all be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Bye, people.
Bye, everyone.